Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven returns, and this time with a dedicated Switch 2 edition. Now, I've already reviewed the base remake on the original Switch. You can find that video linked below, but I'll say it here, I loved it. I gave it an 8 out of 10 and called it one of the best remakes in recent memory. But now, with a native Switch 2 build promising upgrades, I had to see what had changed. You know, is it a worthy step up or just a slight boost? Well, if you do enjoy this sort of content, do a small channel a favour, subscribe, and now let's get into it. So very quickly, for those unfamiliar, Romancing SaGa 2 Revenge of the Seven is a remake of a Japanese RPG classic that was long inaccessible to Western players. Now you'll step into the role of Avalon's Emperor, guiding a dynasty of rulers over generations as you confront the corrupted Seven Heroes. It's an ambitious blend of empire management, non-linear exploration, and turn-based combat, with decisions and skills all passed down through these different leaders. It makes every generation feel like a continuation of the last. I loved this remake on the original Switch for its depth, its unique multi-generational structure, and its beautifully redone soundtrack. It wasn't perfect, admittedly. The pacing could drag in places, and the complexity felt overwhelming early on, but once it clicked, it delivered this incredibly rewarding 50+ hour adventure. But again anyways, this isn't a review, find that below. We've covered it before, so let's get to the good stuff. What has changed on Switch 2? So first of all, what I want to talk about is how does it work on Switch 2? Well, here's the good news. Pricing wise, if you don't already own it, it's completely in line with the original Switch version. That's $59.99 USD or your regional equivalent. However, if you have the Switch 1 build, it's not a free upgrade. The positive, I was worried this would be a completely separate build, essentially asking fans to double dip. That's not the case. If you already own the game, you can upgrade to the Switch 2 version for $9.99 USD or your regional equivalent. And if you do head to the Switch 2 eShop and don't immediately see it listed, do not panic. Click into the original games page and you'll find an option there to purchase the upgrade. But now the real question, is it actually worth it? Well, for anyone brand new to the game, I'll say this, absolutely. It's based on my experience with the original Switch release. I've got no doubt about it. But for those of us upgrading, well, first off, it's a sizable download, nearly 16 gig. That's more than double the original's roughly 10 gig install file. But what are we getting for that space? Well, there's no new content here. This update is focused squarely on performance. What we are looking at is a higher resolution output. Square hasn't specified exactly what it's rendering at before hitting 4K. It's then also targeting 60 FPS rather than the 30 FPS cap on the original. Load times have seen improvements. And yeah, let's go into a bit more detail here. Let's jump into some comparisons, starting with the visuals. So honestly, when I first booted this up on Switch 2, I didn't think it looked all that different. It was one of those moments where you kind of remember a game looking a certain way and you convince yourself it's the same. But going back to the original Switch version quickly after proved otherwise. The difference is huge. Textures are noticeably sharper, edges are cleaner, and the overall image is far less muddy. On Switch 1, you can see a softness to environments and character models, especially in caves or large areas. On Switch 2, everything holds its detail much better, both docked and handheld. This carries through into cutscenes as well. In side-by-sides, you'll spot sharper outlines on character faces and armor and finer environmental details like stone carvings and distant objects that simply weren't as clear before. Now, it's not a total visual overhaul, but that resolution boost is huge. This is particularly noticeable in handheld mode on Switch 2. With the original version, if you're playing that on Switch 2, you're essentially stretching a lower resolution image to fill the screen. And yeah, it's not going to look great. On Switch 2, the higher internal rendering makes everything here sharper. For me, that alone makes this upgrade a must-buy if you're planning to play primarily in handheld, and in docked, honestly, again, it is a huge jump. Load times then are another area where I had very few complaints with the original release. In fact, I'd have said it was perfectly fine. But here's another big difference. They've been cut almost in half. The first load into the game on Switch 2 clocks in at around 12 seconds, just over, compared to 24 seconds on the original Switch. It's a clear win. While the original wasn't what I'd call sluggish, this quicker startup, it's Nothing to complain about basically. It makes jumping back in easier than ever. Performance though is what I would call the night and day difference. Now on the original Switch, the game targets 30 FPS and mostly holds steady, but there were minor drops during combat and also just heavier areas like your castle. It clearly stressed the system. There was also a bit of stutter on Switch 1, not frame rate drops exactly, but a hitch as battles initiated. Well, on Switch 2, it's a different story. It targets 60 FPS, and for the most part, it hits it. Combat stutters, completely gone. And after playing on Switch 2, going back to the Switch 1 build honestly just felt so dated. That said though, it's not flawless on Switch 2. Now I did notice the frame rate dipping into the low 50s when I deliberately sprinted around town like a lunatic. It's going to be rare you'd ever push it that hard during normal play, but it's definitely worth noting. So overall, is it worth the upgrade? Well, I do think it could have done more. A little bonus content maybe for returning players, something to entice me back in. I probably won't be replaying the game personally. I just don't have that amount of hours available to me. Also, little things like popping haven't been eliminated. It's still very much identical. You'll see characters appearing just, say a few feet away, but it's not too bad. Just, it's there. Ultimately, though, it really comes down to whether you want to experience this game again, and honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you did. It is still incredible, and the fact that save files carry across, always a nice touch. Now, if you've never played it, again, gonna stress this, you should absolutely check it out. But putting them side by side, the Switch 2 version, it is the clear winner. The game now looks fantastic, and that smoother frame rate goes a long way in making it a much more enjoyable experience overall. So will you be checking it out? Let me know in the comments. With that, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers all.